The Napoleonic Wars, a series of conflicts from 1803 to 1815 involving Napoleon Bonaparte's French Empire and varying European coalitions, reshaped the European political landscape. Prussia, a significant European power at the time, played a pivotal role in these wars, though its participation was fraught with challenges and dramatic consequences. This context is vital to understanding the battles of Jena and Auerstedt in 1806, which marked a severe and rapid decline for Prussian military prestige. Prussia, once an admired military power, underestimated the tactical genius of Napoleon and the revolutionary changes in warfare he brought. This period exemplifies a critical juncture where traditional military strategies collided with modernized rapid maneuver systems employed by the French. The battles at Jena and Auerstedt were not just defeats. They were crushing blows that highlighted Prussia's lack of readiness for the new scale of warfare. Prussia's inability to adapt quickly from the previously successful, slow-moving, and rigid military doctrines to ones that embraced speed and flexibility had catastrophic results. Two illustrative examples frame the significance of Prussia's role in these wars. First, the Battle of Auerstedt, where the Prussian army was decisively defeated by a smaller French force, showcased the extent to which Prussian tactics were outdated. Secondly, the reforms initiated by figures like Gerhard von Scharnhorst and August von Gneisenau in response to these defeats were crucial in reshaping the Prussian military, eventually contributing to its resurgence. Opinions on Prussia's role during the Napoleonic Wars vary. Some view Prussia's initial failure as a necessary humiliation, prompting sorely needed reforms that made the kingdom a key player in the eventual defeat of Napoleon. Others argue that this period was avoidable and reflects poorly on its leadership's failure to innovate. Challenges to analyzing this historical period include debates on whether Prussia could have realistically countered Napoleonic France, or if its fall was inevitable given the period's broader socio-political shifts. Some historians offer alternative outlooks, suggesting that the rapid pace of Napoleonic reforms was impossible for traditional powers, like Prussia, to parallel. The introduction of Prussia's role in the Napoleonic Wars lays the foundation for understanding the confrontation at Jena-Auerstedt and Prussia's subsequent transformation. This metamorphosis not only influenced its future military effectiveness, but also the subsequent reshaping of European alliances and balances of power. The lessons learned from this phase of history continue to be a point of reference in discussions of military strategy and reform. The Battle of Jena-Auerstedt in 1806 stands as a pivotal moment in military history, marking the dramatic fall of Prussia at the hands of Napoleon's forces. This engagement was characterized by two simultaneous battles, one at Jena, where Napoleon led one of his armies, and the other at Auerstedt, commanded by Marshal Davout against the main Prussian force. These battles not only exemplified Napoleon's military genius, but also underscored the effectiveness of his Grande Armée as a formidable instrument of warfare. The significance of Jena-Auerstedt is profound. It effectively shattered the Prussian army's reputation, leading to the swift collapse of Prussian resistance and a reconfiguration of power in Europe. It demonstrated the superiority of the Napoleonic way of war, emphasizing speed, flexibility, and decisive action over the outdated tactics of the Prussian military, which was still steeped in linear formations and rigid command structures. In a real-world context, the aftermath of Jena-Auerstedt forced a comprehensive reform of the Prussian military. One example is the introduction of the Krumper system, which increased the number of trained soldiers by rotating recruits through the army, ensuring a large reserve of trained men. Another significant reform was the shift to merit-based officer promotions, discarding the aristocratic bias that had hindered military effectiveness. These changes were essential in transforming Prussia into a military powerhouse in the ensuing years. Opinions supporting the importance of Jena-Auerstedt often highlight how these battles accelerated military innovations and reforms in Europe. Clausewitz's writings, born out of this upheaval, offered new insights into the dynamics of war, emphasizing the fog of war and the unpredictable nature of battle, themes still relevant to military strategy today. However, some historians argue that the defeat was as much about Prussian errors as it was about French brilliance. Prussian leaders were indecisive, failed to coordinate their forces effectively, and underestimated the French threat. This debate underscores the complexity of attributing military success or failure to leadership alone. Jena-Auerstedt connects intricately with the broader Napoleonic Wars and the subsequent reshaping of Europe. It influenced the rise of nationalism and modernization in Germany, highlighting the necessity of adaptable and innovative military structures. This defeat was a catalyst for change, challenging existing paradigms and laying the groundwork for future German unification. Thus, Jena-Auerstedt serves not only as a historical event, but as a transformative force in military and national development. The background of Prussia. Before the battles refers to the political, military, and social conditions of Prussia leading up to the pivotal battles of Jena and Auerstedt in 1806. Understanding this context is essential for grasping why Prussia faced such a significant defeat at the hands of Napoleon's forces. At the time, Prussia was regarded as one of the major military powers in Europe, renowned for the reforms of Frederick the Great, including its disciplined army and efficient bureaucratic state. However, by the early 19th century, many of these advancements had stagnated, leaving the Prussian military and administration outdated in comparison to the innovative tactics of Napoleon's France. The significance of this point lies in how these outmoded structures contributed to Prussia's downfall. The army's rigidity, reliance on outdated tactics, and lack of modernization were emblematic of a nation that had not kept pace with the rapid changes occurring in military strategy and technology. For instance, unlike Napoleon's forces, which employed rapidly mobile and flexible corps, Prussian forces were hampered by a cumbersome command structure that could not react swiftly to the dynamic nature of modern warfare. Additionally, the political landscape was marked by an aristocracy resistant to change, which impeded necessary reforms. Two specific examples highlight these issues. Firstly, the Prussian army still employed closed column formations and linear tactics that were ineffective against the French army's flexible skirmishing techniques. Secondly, there was a lack of effective coordination among Prussian leaders, exemplified by the lack of a unified command structure and clear communication, which proved disastrous during the engagement at Jena and Auerstedt. Opinions from contemporary and modern historians suggest that Prussia's loyalty to its conservative military doctrine and administrative processes played a crucial role in its failure. Critics argue that an inherent conservatism and complacency led Prussian leaders to underestimate the strategic brilliance of Napoleon. The main controversies surround the intrinsic class structure, where the dominance of the aristocracy over the common soldiers and the state's affairs hampered progress and innovation. Some argue that internal reform was required much earlier, emphasizing the need for a merit-based leadership over one of birthright. Understanding this background connects directly with the outcomes of the battles of Jena and Auerstedt, where the failings of the old Prussian system were laid bare, initiating a period of reform that would ultimately reshape the nation. These insights portray a vivid picture of how the systemic weaknesses of Prussia contributed to its spectacular defeat and subsequent transformation. The Battle of Jena-Auerstedt in 1806 represents a pivotal moment in European history, symbolizing the dramatic decline of Prussian power and the rise of Napoleonic influence. This concept, while primarily historical, underscores the vulnerability of once powerful nations and the shifting dynamics of military and political strength. The battles, occurring on October 14, 1806, saw the forces of Napoleon's French Empire decisively defeat the Prussian army in dual engagements. This event was a turning point, essentially marking the fall of Prussia as a dominant military power in Europe. The significance of Jena-Auerstedt is profound, as it showcased the effectiveness of Napoleon's tactics and the weaknesses of Prussian military strategy. It highlighted the importance of adaptability and modernization in military practice. Napoleon's use of speed, coordination, and the corps system demonstrated a strategic advancement that the rigid, outdated Prussian tactics could not counter. This defeat forced systemic reforms within Prussia, leading to significant military and social changes, such as the abolition of serfdom and the restructuring of the military framework, which later contributed to its resurgence. Two notable examples illustrate the impact of this event. First, the sweeping reforms initiated by Prussian leaders like Scharnhorst and Gneisenau aimed at modernizing the army. These reforms set the foundation for future successes, including Prussia's crucial role in the defeat of Napoleon in later years. Second, the battle laid groundwork for the rise of nationalism in Prussia and Germany, as the shock of defeat galvanized a movement toward collective identity and statehood, culminating in the eventual unification of Germany in 1871. Support for these transformations can be found in the works of historians who argue that the defeats at Jena-Auerstedt acted as a necessary catalyst for Prussian modernization, leading to a more robust society and military. However, the rapid changes also faced criticism, as some contemporaries believed the traditional Prussian spirit was being compromised. Controversially, the loss questioned the very core of Prussian identity and brought into question the reliance on aristocratic-led military strategies. Alternative viewpoints suggest that an earlier embrace of change could have prevented the catastrophic loss, highlighting the broader theme of resistance to innovation. In conclusion, the fall of Prussia at Jena-Auerstedt is not just a historical footnote. It is a lesson in adaptation and the consequences of rigidity in the face of change. This concept ties deeply into the broader narrative of the Napoleonic Wars, illustrating how failure can precipitate growth and ultimately reshape national destiny.